American Cup in Orlando. Tasha Schweiker to the United States has taken over, thank you, halfway done, has taken over first place in the women's standings. And there are the standings with U.S. women 1 and 3 at the moment, with Tabitha Yim in 7th place after that disastrous bars routine. And on the men's side, an American has a share of first place. Paul Hom and Jordan Yovchev are tied for the top spot with Lopez, who got a 9.65 on that vault just before we went to commercial, in 3rd place. And Yemov continues to struggle in this competition. Sean Townsend in 5th place at the moment. Well, this Visa American Cup has a long and distinguished history. But, Tim, as I look over the competitors today, I'm just wondering why there are no women from Russia, Romania, or China here.
Well, you know, we got a lot of different stories, but the Russian national championships are taking place right now. Alexei Nemov, he's in a different category. He can do basically whatever he wants. He's won 12 Olympic medals, as I said. So he can do what he wants. Their star, the Russian star, Horkina, is basically doing a lot of different things now. She's involved with a Broadway-like performance in Moscow. And Arkayev, the head coach, says that they're not prepared. The Romanians say that it just does not fit into their schedule.
And Elfie, so far in the competition, have there been any surprises yet for you?
I don't think there have. I actually thought that with Tasha Schweikert's situation coming into this competition 2 weeks ago, if you asked her, do you feel you can win the American Cup, she probably would have been a little hesitant. But, you know, I said earlier her practices have been getting stronger and stronger all week. She is a showgirl. This woman loves to perform for an audience, and she loves being national champion. She loves to lead this U.S. team, and I'm not surprised that she's leading the competition at this point.
Yeah, she is a competitor. She and her coach both told me coming into this meet, yeah, we're really not in the best of shape, but, you know, it's the American Cup, so let's go.
Well, we are ready to go with Verona van der Loer of the Netherlands on beam.
We talked about the rapid rise of this team and this young athlete. Do you realize at the 2001 World Championships, she was actually 3rd all around going into the top 36 competition. When I asked her what that was like, the experience of being right up there with the best in the world, she said, I'm surprised. I didn't feel that I should be there. Her goal was just to be in the top 10. Her coach, Frank Lauder, also attributes the rise to studying gymnastics. He has visited Deva many times. He has watched many tapes on Russian athletes. He said it's been a matter of trial and error, experimentation with these athletes. She's looking just a little bit nervous here. Asked her about coming to the American Cup. She felt that she wasn't quite qualified, believe it or not, to be here because they invite the very best in the world to be at this meet.
I'd say she could get there, though. She has a lot of wonderful qualities. Beautiful Anodi there.
One thing she does have is beautiful line and artistry on the balance beam, and that's something that impresses the judges for sure.
Verona van der Loer of the Netherlands.
And her coach said that the biggest challenge is knowing how much to push with her. He said she's a little bit like a diesel engine, takes a long time to get going, but when she finally does, she can go and go and go.
Very strong exercise. As I said, a little bit tentative at times. Here's her dismount.
Great 2.5 twist. You're going to see a lot of that from the gymnast this time around.
So van der Loer has completed her beam routine. She was in 5th place before that rotation. Alexander Barish was scheduled next on parallel bars. He has scratched. So we'll stay at the beam for Tatyana Yarosh of Ukraine.
Well, Barish did not even compete at the last World Championships in the all-around. He was 3rd in Sydney. He's very accomplished gymnast, obviously. Shoulder problem. His coach, Igor Korobchinsky, just said that he cannot seem to get out of the woods with that injury. It's been lingering. He doesn't need a surgery, but there was no way that he could basically deal with still rings. And if he wasn't going to do rings, he said, I'm not going to do parallel bars either.
There's the score, 9-3-7-5 for Vandeleur on balance beam.
Next on beam, Ukraine,
Now Yeresh from Ukraine. This balance beam, along with the floor exercise, her favorite routine.
You know, she's been a little bit difficult to figure out in practice, Tom. She was always the first one to be finished her workouts, which is really not typical of an athlete hailing from the Ukraine.
The Ukraine, of course, has some great names in its past. Tatiana Gutsu and Lilia Podkapayeva, both Olympic all-around champions. The program, though, has stumbled a little bit. They were always in the hunt for the medals. They've been a little bit out of it.
Yeah, this team placed 6th at the World Championships last year. This is a new type of element that we're seeing on women's balance beam. It's a hold element. They're sort of going back to some of the more traditional skills that we've seen in years past.
Also, there's a new category. Basically, comes down to you need to show artistic value throughout the exercise.
Again, it's a subjective call for the judges, and it's one that I like because I think it will really help distinguish the very best athletes on both balance beam and floor exercise. She was solid.
Nice dismount, a little bit too long at the end of the beam, kind of prepping for that dismount, but overall good exercise.
And we'll have her score in just a moment. Next up, though, Paul Hamm on parallel bars. Paul with a share of the lead after 4 rotations. Half of the gymnastic twins from Wisconsin, his brother Morgan. Of course, they were the first twin brothers to compete on the same Olympic gymnastics team in Sydney in 2000.
This is a very critical combination right here. Peach with a half turn, right into a giant double back. Ooh, little bit.
Yeah, Tim, that was the section that his coach, Stacy Maloney, said, if he can get through that, I'll be feeling a whole lot better.
That was great, that second combination there, the major release skill. Yeah, Stacy told me, basically, 4 events, the first 4 events, they're no problem. Get to P-bars and high bar, that's where it gets a little bit critical. Nice double pike, kicks out a little bit in the air, just a small hop on the landing. Woo. Such an athlete, tremendous competitor. That first difficult combination, it's putting 2 major skills together, an E plus an E, the most difficult in gymnastics. When you combine things of high value together, he gets just a boatload of points for that.
Trying to hang on to a share of the lead. The winner gets $15,000 of the total $70,000 purse, and Jordan Yovchev of Bulgaria is tied with Hamm coming to this rotation.
If I had to handicap at this point as to who has a stronger program on the last 2 events, Yovchev or Hamm, I would say it's basically a toss-up. It's gonna come down to who has the best 2 performances on the last 2 events, the way it should be.
Saw the Yarosh beam score, 8-8-6-2. As we go back to the beam for Brazil's Daniele Hipólito.
In talking to Daniele's coach, Georgette Vidor, she was telling me that she's really quite proud of the fact that she has 4 of the top athletes.
Oh,
Isn't that a shame?
It's just so hard, though.
As I was saying, she was mentioning that she has 4 of the top athletes at her facility in Rio de Janeiro, where they have some new Russian coaches that have come into town and have another training center. She said there's a little bit of a war going on right now between the 2 facilities. She basically didn't want her girls to have to leave her facility. She felt she's worked with them for over 10 years now. Why should I?
Ready here for the dismount.
Big tumbling combination, really quite a shame. She has a lot of top skills in this exercise. In fact, one of the highest start values of all the athletes here.
Nem tudo sai perfeito.
Eu sei, vamos lá.
Very aggressive gymnast.
You know, it's important to remember that for many of these international athletes, this is really jump-starting their season for international events. There are many to come after the American Cup.
Paul Hamm score on parallel bars, 9.35. Trying to stay in front. He's tied with Yovchev, who he has yet to perform on the parallel bars. And also still to come on the parallel bars will be Sean Townsend. Last year he was so close to making history. Leading into the final event, Sean's dream of becoming the first American all-round world champion was clearly in sight.
First day, I was having a pretty good meet, and I just went through it like I went through every routine, you know? I just did my thing.
He was hungry, he was ready to go. I mean, he was ready to compete. He was tired of training and doing routines back in the gym, and so with that mindset, I know he's ready to go.
A lot of things are going through my head, you know. I saw the scoreboard, I knew what was going on. I just made a slight error where I came in a little close, and usually I can recover from that easily. If you're a little bit off in this sport, you're off the event. When I fell off that bar, I was just like, no way this is happening. It was just devastating to come so close to your dream, and then right there, it's gone. It's hard.
It was certainly frustrating and disappointing. He was just one release away from being world champion, and he's going to use it to his benefit in the future.
After seeing his dream slip away as an all-around world champion, Sean's concentration had to turn elsewhere, to the event finals on parallel bars.
I was actually really, really nervous. I just wanted to stay in my own world, not look at any scores, not look at one person's routine.
It was almost surreal. We saw the 9-7 flash, and I told him, you won, you won.
I got up on that podium, you know, first place, and I got a little teary-eyed up there, and that was it, man. That was awesome for me.
And there is Sean. He will be up next on the parallel bars, where he won that world championship last year. I'm sure you know his story by now. Born 2 months prematurely, weighed only 3 pounds 7 ounces when he was born, raised by his truck driver dad Frost. He used to walk up and down the steps in the house on his hands. So you knew he was going to have some sort of gymnastic skills. A recent homeowner. He has purchased his own home.
Yeah, he says the best part about his home is his pool table downstairs. Just loves it.
And I really didn't think that we would find Shawn Townsend going into the 5th event in this position. If I had to have predicted, I would have said he'll be definitely fighting for the title. He was second here last year, just a 10th of a point away from Blaine Wilson.
Well, he got into a hole with the floor exercise today.
Well, it's such a critical tumbling pass and so difficult at the end. But what typically happens is the skill before it, right here, was a little too high. He couldn't get into the floor to create the power that he needed to do 2 flips. I saw it. He did that layout. It was a little too high, and there was no way that that was coming around.
8-5 on that floor exercise, which put him in the hole. But now here's his strength, the parallel bars.
You know, Shawn said that last year there was no pressure on him, and he feels all kinds of pressure this year to win this event. He said, I have a reputation now.
Great peach basket, little bit of a pause there. It's a wonderfully choreographed routine. It really moves, it keeps going. It's what the judges are looking for. Has a lot of energy and a big dismount. You want to be world champion, you got to know how to do that, that's for sure.
Shawn hoping those parallel bars can pull him up from 5th place at the moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the first half on the left rotation. Athletes will now advance to their next exercise.
So we'll have Shawn Townsend's score when we return to Orlando. The Visa American Cup. Shawn Townsend awaits his score on parallel bars. Tasha Schweikert leads the women's standings.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time,
a special Dateline Sunday. The Olympic superstars, Vanetta Flowers, Apollo Ono, Jamie Saleh and David Peltier, Derek Parra, Jim Shea, and Sarah Hughes. Life after their